And we are live.
Wow, all right. Hello, family. It is Talanoa Tuesday. Welcome, everyone. Look at our beautiful souls we have here today. We have our lovely Carl and Naki. Hey, whoop, 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 whoop.
Hello.
We get a hey for them straight from PolyByDesign. And you may know them from their FICA podcast. They've been out in the community. And we are now live. Maybe we could just do a quick check in of everybody who's on board with our lovely Essence of Mom Facebook live. We
Go
have
ahead, Nancy.
Anthony in the corner who will be. Anthony, hey, can you wave to everyone? Let them know. Hi, Anthony. Anthony's going to be doing our upkeep and welcoming everybody to the Facebook page. And then we have our lovely Lulu. Hey, Lulu. Lueni, for those of you who want to use the full name. She'll be helping to make sure we stay connected because she's our tech savvy. And we have our lovely Carl. Hey, brother. Yes, all the way
Good
from far,
evening.
far away in the Hotville land. And our lovely sister. Hi, sister.
Hi,
Hey.
sister.
You're also over there in the hot, hot land. And I'm Nani Wilson. I'll be sitting here. This is our first week together as our Survivor series. And I just thought we'd turn it over to Lulu if she could just share her great idea of how we started this.
Yeah, thank you, Tinani. So we started off our Survivor series because we recognize there are so many survivors in the community and survivors that we know who are just everyday people. And we wanted to recognize and honor everybody who have stories to tell because we want to hear these stories. And we feel it's very important to recognize all the brave souls that have shown resiliency, that have shown strength, and just have kept on going despite the circumstances, and just wanted to inspire everybody. I know I have definitely been inspired by everybody in this series, so it's a great way to share it to the community and just show off some really amazing people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lulu. That's so powerful. That's coming from our young leaders, right? And how powerful is that to
Mm.
be so creative and want to really share that? And so maybe what we'll do is we'll just see, Carl and Naki, if you could just share a little bit about yourself so we can share with our Facebook Live family.
Go ahead, Carl.
We're both going to stare at each other
I
until
know,
Carl
Yeah.
right?
finishes.
Go.
Let's see. My name is Carl Johnson. I am a husband, father, a brother, a son, a friend, a whole bunch of different hats I think that everybody wears in community these days. I am the co-founder of Poly by Design and the FICA podcast. Um,
Mm.
I will let my partner in crime tell you all about Poly by Design and the FICA podcast. Um, I will just say that one of our missions is to find positive Pacific Islander role models. So we are used to being on the other side of these cameras and asking the questions, not answering them. So it's an honor to be here for Talanoa Tuesday. And once we get through tonight, I am looking forward to the entire series. I'll be tuned in as you guys go forward. So good to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to have you, brother.
Yeah. So, just thank you for having us here in this safe space that I always appreciate that you guys always provide for me. My name is Naki. I have 5 kids, 1 boy, 4 girls, who they're all like headstrong, crazy, drive me nuts. And I'm married to Mo for 34 years. And we started, so I, like Carl, I am the co-founder for Poly by Design and the FICA podcast. Poly by Design is a non-profit organization that we started to push and promote positive Pacific Islander role models and entrepreneurs. We started because we wanted to show our kids that there are people that look like them, that are not, because we're stereotyped as athletes and movie stars, which is awesome, amazing. I think that's incredible. But we also need to show our kids that we're educators, we're community leaders like you guys, and entrepreneurs. So to see faces that look like them, give them an example of, oh, hey, I can do that too. So we started doing that, and we started hitting all the community events that people don't know about and sharing them on social media, so that people know these events are out there. Like, Pitt has a Christmas party or Christmas toy giveaway every year that they give away toys at Bayshore Elementary School. So people that don't know, well, here you go.
Right.
So yeah, that's what we do. I love it. I love because of Poly by Design, I've met some amazing, amazing people like yourselves, like Anthony. I would have never met Anthony. I would have never met Lulu. Patsy Tito, Natalie Asun. I mean, tons and tons and tons of people that people I've never heard of until I hit the Poly by Design, and now we're sharing what we're learning with everybody so that everybody can hear about the amazing things that you guys are doing. And I talk too much.
No, no, we love it. We love it. And that's why we're really glad that it's both of you to start this Survivor series with us, because your story, just how you two came connected together, is a beautiful story. Do you mind sharing that with our family that's watching?
Sure. I was born in San Francisco, and I was adopted at 5 or 6 months. So I didn't know my biological family. I always knew in some way I was going to find my biological family, um, and I had done the information release of non-identifying information, so I had information about my family, but I didn't. I never made contact, and I tried several times. As a kid, I'll still look at the adoption papers they have. I was I was born in 1968, so there is a hand typed, a typed document, and the name of the last name, full name of my mother it's typed, it's X'd over. So for those of you that have never used a manual typewriter, um, what that means is it was actually typed back and forth over and over and over with an X to block out the name. So I used to look at that document as a kid with a magnifying glass and hold it up to the sun and just stare at it and see if I could will the name out of that document. So I always had a desire to find my family, but it didn't happen. And then in 2015, I was diagnosed with advanced stage 4 prostate cancer, and I have two sons. I have triplets, and it's two boys and a girl. Malia is the girl, Taimatua and Nainoa are my boys. And because prostate cancer can be there can be a hereditary piece of that, I wanted to get as much information to them as possible so they could be as safe as possible with their health. Um, and so I did 23andMe. And the genetic profile, on that profile, there's a little box that you can check that says, do you want to allow information to be seen by potential family members? And I never thought about that from a adoption standpoint. I just thought, well, what's it going to hurt? Check the box. So I took the test in, I think, August or September. It came back in October, and there ended up being my wife said, she came barging in the room, and I just finished chemotherapy at that point. So I was completely wiped out. I was going to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. It was still light out. And my wife came running in the room and she goes, "We found your first cousin." And I went to college with Samoans, so I know enough to know that if you got a name, you can find your family. So to know that I had found my first cousin, and it was my cousin Gina Apelu Manuleleua in Las Vegas, and so the dance back and forth between that. So I had messaged Gina and said, "Hey, um, you know, I went through 23andMe, and I'm your first cousin, and hopefully, you're open to meeting or talking on the phone, or I'm not sure the words of it. Basically, I was saying, hey, I'm your cousin." Um, and in true Samoan Pacific Islander fashion, um, Gina and Naki got together, and I guess they said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and talk to the family and find out whether this is true. Never mind that it's genetic DNA evidence that I'm their first cousin. They went and did the family.
You got to check that. You got to check that PI hotline.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that coconut is real.
They went to the coconut wire, and they came back and they said, "Hey, you know what? That genetic evidence, you are our first cousin." So that's one of the things that I've always since having cancer, I've lived my life by, is that I've got three things that that I have spoken to myself and lived my life by since having cancer. One of them is things happen for me, not to me. So, but for cancer, I wouldn't have done 23andMe. But for Zappos shoes that my cousin works for, that gave a free 23andMe test to their employees. And Gina said, didn't matter that it was free. It was because they were walking in office past her cubicle, because she said if she had to go somewhere, she wasn't going to do it. Right. So God placed that in her path. She does that. So, but for cancer, I'll let PolyByDesign. I don't know if it would be, created in a different way. Right. But things happen for me, not to me. And that's how I found the family. I had people telling me, once I got stage 4 cancer that, hey, you better figure something out, because, the clock is ticking. And I'll point out the clock's always ticking, regardless of whether you have cancer or not.
Right.
But, I just always believed. I never gave up belief that I was going to find my family. And, you believe in something enough, you work towards something enough, you can manifest it into, and I believe this, you can manifest that into your life. So I met Naki. So my whole life I've been looking for my family. Sunday night is when my wife came running into the room. I spoke on the phone to Gina on Tuesday afternoon. I spoke to Naki on Thursday, and on Saturday morning, she and I and my wife, Nicole, and Mo had breakfast together in Vacaville. So it was a long journey, but then once 23andMe came through, it was instantaneous. I mean, from Sunday to reading the results on a computer screen to a hug in front of a restaurant with a family member on Saturday. It's been an amazing ride, and it still is. I'm still on it. So that's how we ended up meeting, really.
That's so beautiful. I just love how it's really about the powers that be, right? And your mantra too is waste no minutes, right? And so it's been a blessing. And in regards to cancer, we hate that C word, right? But it's like, thank you so much also for allowing us to have you be part of our life and journey, because we'll go to how we connected, but I think also it's really interesting just to hear the connection too, with Naki in regards to that. Naki, would you like to share that part too?
Sure. So we talk on Thursday, and then we text like a million times from then on, but our connection was instant. I'd have to say it was instant. And so the Carl that you see before us is not the Carl that I met. The Carl that I met, he had just come out of chemo, and he was pale, and he didn't look like the person that he looks like now. So I'm not gonna cry.
That's okay, sister.
So he looked like death, really. I mean, I can say that now because our brother is here living, but
Yes.
he totally looked like a completely different person. And in my head, I wanted to connect him with as many people as I can in our family. Before he passed away, I thought he was going to pass away, and I needed to get him what he wanted.
Yes.
And so we had bumps in the road, but he held on. And Nicole, his wife, said, had he not found the family, he he was like, no, that's what she said. And when he found the family, he got rejuvenated to fight again. And so, um, we all had, it's very hard and traumatizing when someone gives up a child, and the family went through some stuff, but we all came out of it still loving each other and sticking together. And so, Carl and I had breakfast, and we clicked right away. And we've been hanging out ever since. And he had just been getting stronger and stronger. And so, in a couple of months, like, he looked like this. He had color in his face. He had a mustache. He had a beard. He had hair. And so, by the time he met our family, he looked like a completely different person. And I'm grateful, but at the time I thought he was going to die, and I wanted just to give him what he wanted. That's it. That's what I wanted to give him. So our family started hanging out, and he slowly started meeting family members, and he met his mom and his brother and his aunts and all his first cousins. And it's a blessing for me to watch him meet everybody, and to see that, because of the family. And when I say family, I mean like you, Nani, and you, Anthony, and you, Lulu, and Neo, and Yvette, and Leah. I mean, I'm shouting these names out because those are the names of the people that are keeping his spirit going. um, you know his father passed away, and we all freaking crashed just like he did. So we all packed up and went up there and helped him with as much as we can. But the family that Carl has made outside of our biological family, I believe, is real. Besides our family, is really keeping his spirit and his body alive.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
just saying.
I think, again, I can definitely confirm, validate everything that you said.
Tutu and Tutu,
And
his spirit
but
mother.
spirit mother, right? All of our spirit mother.
Okay.
Um, and just that part where we were honored and blessed to first meet you, Brother Carl, at Journey to Empowerment, which was a safe space that we wanted to continue to provide, and we still will continue to provide.
Right.
Um, for our community to come together. And I just remember how powerful that evening was. And when you shared that, and I know Tutu came up to you after, and I have this picture that is like, I just want to make it a poster because she reached out to you and just confirmed that you will be okay. And, just to know it was like a home setting, right? We were
Right.
surrounded by love, and we love you from right off the get. And that's that part, that magic, right? That magic that happens from
Right.
above. um, and I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that, because you would have a different experience than me observing from outside, because I was trying to take pictures because I just thought
Oh.
it was so powerful and beautiful.
Yeah, I was one of the things that I had, um, I guess, game planned was how I was going to live with cancer. Um, so there was, different pieces to it, but a big piece of it was my spirituality. Um, I I loved work. You know what I mean? I didn't have a. I don't golf. I don't like go hiking. I don't. I used to live in the, go to the gym a lot, but it was more exercise. It wasn't really a passion. So a piece of my journey with cancer was that I was going to find something that I believed in, or find some spirituality in my life. And I think, I mean, Naki and I texted so much in the beginning. I was like, literally, I thought about like her husband, and I didn't know her, obviously. I didn't know Mo at all. I was like, her husband must think, like, what the heck? Like, these two are, like, sooner or later, the guy's going to be like, yeah, you're on the phone too much or something, because we were just always talking. I wanted to know the names of everybody. I wanted to know, like, who's parent and who's uncle, and, you know, which one of my cousins have passed away. And so we spent so much time texting back and forth. I think we were, um, she had sent me a link to Teresa Sengatonu speaking.
No, it was
I'm not
Andrew.
sure.
Andrew Vai.
Oh, it's Andrew Vai. Um, and I was like, wow, that's really powerful. And she said, yeah, it's at this event that they have. I think she explained it was the first Friday of the month, but it was every month. Um, and uh, my sister Nani runs it, and I was like, well, she goes, we should go check it out. So it ended up being a huge spiritual connection for me to the Samoan community. I met, Neo there, and through Neo, I've met, Yvette and Maury and Leah and everybody. So, it ended up being a crossroads moment for me in my life. But I was really looking for something. I was still recovering. I was still trying to find my legs in terms of my health. I was moved. We painted that night. I remember we painted. I still have the picture. Um, I remember, I think his name was Ivan,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
was sitting in front of me, and he's like a professional artist. Like, I was looking at his picture, and I was like, I want to share mine. Like, look at that guy's over there. Um, and so it was one of those moments where I've always been, um, when I was in college, I lived with two Samoans at different times. Um, and I was comfortable with them, right? But then I would go to church, or I would get in a big setting with lots of Samoans and Pacific Islanders, and I was nervous. I didn't speak the language. I felt like, I wasn't raised by Samoa. So I was still, experiencing that when I went to Journey to Empowerment. I was like, oh my gosh, a room full of, people are going to look at me crazy. It was 100% safe space. I know that Journey to Empowerment promotes that, and they say that, and sometimes people think, is that really, what's that mean? Come experience it. Come to Journey Empowerment and see what a safe space means, because it's really hard to explain. I was overly nervous going in there, and I got through it, and I felt, like I was taking a deep breath, like, hey, everybody's, really cool here. Um, and then Tutu came up to me at the end, um, and it was the same thing. It was just an instant connection on a spiritual level. We held hands. I love that picture. I had no idea somebody took a picture of that moment. It's one of those times where you look at it and you go, man, I wish somebody would have like took a picture of that. And then it was months before I saw that there was an actual picture of that moment. Um, so thank you, Nani. I think you were the one taking the picture.
Yeah.
But an instant connection, and she didn't say a whole lot. She just said, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether she meant, like, does she know I have cancer? Does she know I'm like crazy nervous about being here? Does she, what does she mean? But I think now I look back at that, and she didn't mean any one thing. Like, she was just saying, you know, breathe easy. Everything's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Um, and, from that to going to see her in the hospital, um, every time I spend time with Tutu, um, it's a window that I feel honored to look through and share time with her. But that was a big moment in my life, and I felt like it was a piece of connecting into the community that I'm part of now. So thank you, Naki, for dragging me to that. Thank you, Nani, for creating that place to share.
Thank you, brother. And Tutu always is looking forward to her golden children, and definitely you two are them. I don't know about her biological child, but you two are definitely you two are definitely um, that in her eyes, and that's beautiful because it really lifts her spirit to make that connection. And we want to say thank you for sharing that part of the journey also. And so, I know, Neki, you have a story to also share regarding that horrible C word that um, affected us, but we continue to uh, fight it and battle it every day with our sword and shields. Would you like to kind of touch base on that journey?
Yeah. So, and this is, had it not been for Carl, I probably wouldn't have known I had cancer. So we were doing FICA with our podcast, and I feel like I've told this story a million times, but we after the show, that somebody was selling pro skis, and you know how fat I am.
You know it had to do with food.
I know. I always talk about food, and Zoom calls, I'm always eating. And so after FICA, I had ordered pierogies for my family. And right after the show, we drove to HP, and we got lost. And so I was on my phone, I wasn't paying attention, and we got lost. And Carl was making a U-turn. He was turning around. And before I knew it, I woke up and we were in a car accident. And I woke up and there was white everywhere in the car. The whole car was white. And I thought, well, damn, I went to heaven. I knew I was going to get here. I knew I was going to get here. But then what woke me up was Carl had a hard time breathing. And so I can hear him gasping for air, and it woke me up. And so then I seen smoke from the engine or the car, and I watched too many movies, so I thought the car was going to blow.
Right.
So I got out of the car, and there was some really nice people that were that came out of their homes to help me get Carl out of the car. And the lady that hit us, she started to take off. And so she was wearing blue lipstick, so we call her Blue Lipstick. She started to take off, and these two really nice guys that were standing by, they took off running after her, and she was on drugs or whatever, and she was running, and they ran after her to bring her back. And then she started yelling rape, and then they came right back. And then they just let her go because she was screaming rape. But we got Carl out of the car, we got him to the side, and the ambulance came and took us both. I rode with him because I didn't want to pay for the ambulance bill.
I heard that, girl.
Okay. I was like, one time I went, okay, let me tell my ambulance story. One time I went in an ambulance to the hospital. And when they sent me a bill, like, I don't know, a month later, that shit was $1,200 to $1,500. I was like, damn, my insurance doesn't cover this. So I remembered it, right? Because I had a hard time paying that $1,500 off. So when they came up to me and they said, do you need an ambulance? I said, no, I'm just going to ride with Carl. And so I rode in the front seat. We got to the hospital, and they had Carl in a room in emergency. And there was like 5 doctors around him, and they were checking on him, and they were asking him questions. And he said that they said, who were you in an accident with? And he said his cousin. And then he said it was me. And so a male nurse, came over to me and asked me if I was okay, if I was feeling any pain. And I said I had chest pains that were coming across my body. So it was from the seatbelt. So they rushed me onto a table saying that I could have internal bleeding, and they've had somebody who had a seatbelt injury. They sent them home, and then they died at home. So I turned into a trauma patient, and everybody got off of Carl, and they literally jumped off of Carl and came to my bed. Right, Carl?
Because you had a new name.
Yes. So all the trauma patients, they give them a nickname, and it's a name from A. They go through the alphabets, and they were on W by the time they got to me, and I ended up being Whiskers. Whiskers?
Whiskers.
Yeah, they go, okay, so we'll call you Whiskers. And I was like, hey, that's my stripper name. So that was me, Whiskers, the stripper in the emergency. And so we were in there, like, we got in there, like, the accident happened around 12:30ish. And then it was like 9 p.m. and we were still waiting. And they had what did they have? Somebody look at me and take tests. They ran all kinds of tests on both
Oh,
of
a
us.
trauma surgeon.
They had
They
a
had a
trauma
trauma surgeon.
surgeon look at my tests. And then when they came back, the doctor came in to talk to me and said that they found lymph nodes in my what, Carl? In my
My whiskers.
spleen, in my spleen. They
Yeah.
found lymph nodes in my spleen and my abdomen. And they couldn't say that I had lymphoma, which is cancer of the blood. But they said it looks like lymphoma, and we need you to make an appointment with your primary doctor and an oncologist. And so, had it not been for that accident, I would not have found cancer. And I say this because weeks, a month or so before, I was having stomach pains and I was going to emergency, and they did a CT scan. They ran all kinds of x-rays, and they said, you're fine. Here's some, what is it? Antacids, and call it a day. So that Friday before the accident happened on Sunday. Friday, I went to emergency. And they said they're make an appointment with your primary, here's some pills, and be gone, right? And so had it not been for that accident that took me to a Zuckerberg trauma center, a trauma doctor or whatever they are, specialist would not have seen my x-ray and found the lymphoma in my body. So had it not been for the accident, who knows when I would have found it, right? Like, couple of years, so they found it early, and I've just been doing treatment, and I'm still doing treatment, but I'm grateful to be here.
Man, thank you so much. Can we please, Facebook family, give them a round of applause for just that part of the story? That's that part where
Okay, Anna's calling me Whiskers now. Okay, Anna, we see you. Pumpkins rise up, gonna call me Whiskers.
when you said whiskers, I was like, you mean they can see the hairs underneath?
I know. What you talking about?
Little did I think he was gonna say that was your stripper pole name.
I know. So yeah, I was Whiskers.
I know you very well, but I didn't know about all that whisker name.
Mm-hmm. I know.
You never know.
So
And
yeah.
with Samoans, it was the whole room's full. Family showed up.
Mm.
Naki and I are just laughing like it's an amusement park, and they're probably happy to see us go by the time we left. But,
Right.
we were definitely a topic of conversation in that hospital. And when I heard we were going to General, that's where I was born. I was saying I've seen, what that looks like, and I was thinking, oh man, this, what's this hospital going to look like? I mean, get there and it's now Zuckerberg General Hospital or whatever it is. And man, that was like a brand new hospital. It's all shiny.
Oh my God, it's
clean.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they really did a great job on that.
It's
And,
beautiful.
it's really interesting because you both your stories of dealing with this is like the powers that be brought you together, right? And it's like
Right.
ever since then, it's been nothing but magic happening, right? And
Right.
so, just in regards to that connection, how did so please forgive me because I have a bad habit of calling it peanut butter and jelly.
Yes, you do.
From the beginning,
From the beginning, we've been peanut butter and jelly.
Peanut butter and jelly. Could you share with our family just really briefly or in regards to how PBD came about and how long it's been in existence?
Go ahead, Carl.
So Naki kind of talked about it. Really, what we wanted to do was we wanted to show Pacific Islanders winning in life that weren't necessarily athletes or weren't necessarily professional wrestlers or actors. So in that, if we were going to speak to the younger generation, we knew we had to be on the phones. So that's where we made the decision to be social media based and be on the phones. So Naki is a social media whiz. She knows when to post. She knows who to link. She knows, um, you know, which page to put it on. Um, she's got all of that down. So that was really the beginning. Was we wanted to show positive Pacific Islander role models, but and maybe people that don't even we wouldn't think of as being a role model, but it's somebody um, that is a like Laverne. You know what I mean? That it's a there may be a young Pacific Islander um, girl who wants to be a, a firefighter,
Right.
but I've never seen anybody like me, looks like me, that's a firefighter. But then
Mm-hmm.
if we're able to shine the light on her, then maybe there's somebody who sees that, or there's like Junior Fiame, is that Bay Area bin support. You know what I mean? Like that's somebody who
Mm-hmm.
worked for the city and then decided, oh, there's a niche here that I can start a business with and run my own business. There may be people that want to be entrepreneurs and think, oh, I don't see any Pacific Islanders out there that look like me. So that was just the thought, and then the social media thing was kind of like, well, I don't even know that we really thought it through that far. We just knew we had to be on the phones because everybody's on their phone. And then from there, it was, I mean, we're going, I think Naki knows the exact time, but we're out of our third year, approaching our fourth, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's something that I will say, um, had we not had the passion that we have for what we do, we drove from San Francisco or from Sacramento, um, and Naki's lived in Vallejo and Sassoon, um, with no pay for 2 years before we got any kind of funding. We went to events, we did interviews, we bought our own equipment. We just knew what we were doing was right for the community, um, and it's just come everything that we've needed, everything that we've wanted. Where we joke about, well, we said it, so if we spoke it to the
Right.
universe and we work our butts off for it and we believe it, it's going to come. And that
Right.
has never been wrong for Naki and I in PolyByDesign. We've
Right.
never said this is what we want, worked our tails. There's plenty of things that we said we wanted that then we decided, no, we wanted something else. We didn't really work real hard for that. But anything that we said we wanted and busted our tails for it and believed that it was
Mm-hmm.
going to happen, every piece of that has happened. And if, I know there's people probably watching going, is it really, like, I can go down the list. Naki could go down the list of things that we believe in. So, um, that was 2 years of making those drives. And it's not even like making the drive is the issue, but a lot of times people will, say, how do you think you stuck in there? And I go, well, I think part of it, and Naki can speak to this, was we never did the math. Like we never did the math on how many hours we were on the road or how many 12 to 14-hour days and then turn around and go to your 9 to 5, those kind of things. It just didn't matter. It's just like we knew what we were doing was right and we loved it. So it wasn't like we didn't count hours until a couple years later where we were like, wow, we did all that for free, like
Yeah.
for free. We went and went to events. So Naki, well, you can talk from your end of it, but I know you've seen that evolution of what we want, what we say, what we work for, what we believe in.
Yeah, it totally, Poly by Design, it is truly my passion. And at, a late stage of my life, I've found PBD and it really has settled my soul. It really has settled my soul. And Carl and I always say that helping people get what they want is really, really what has just, I had doubts of why am I here? Is this it? I just go to work and, and I love my babies and I love my husband, but I was like, I'm a wife and I just go to work and that's it. That's my life. And then I found PBD and it was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm supposed to get people what they want. So finding it has been so fulfilling spiritually. And, I love it. I love giving people what they want. And Carl is right. We always say, once we say something out loud, and I know it sounds crazy, but you speak it into the universe and God hears you and you work hard for it. You work hard for it, you'll get it. So now we're really careful about what we say out loud because I said, dang, I'm getting tired of working. Boom, I get into a car accident, get cancer, and I'm off of work for a year. So it's not exactly what I wanted, but so now when we speak stuff into the universe, we're, I'm careful about what I say, because God hears us. You just got to say it and work your butt for it. So I like, and I don't have to tell you guys because you guys know,
Right.
there's no money in community work. It's all love. It's love work. You got to love what you're doing in community services, community love, there's no money in it. You just do it because you love it.
Right. Thank you so much for that because it really is about the heart work, right?
Mhm.
Not hard, but heart. It fills your heart.
Heart. Yes,
In,
heart work.
in you, and then in turn help others feel their heart and feel connected. As you both were talking, I could feel my heart pattering, and I'm sure other folks who are joining us could also feel that too. The emotions of just kind of sharing your passion and both of you coming together, and being triumphant over this C word, right? And
Right.
no, you are going to be the one in charge. It's not going to. And again, living your mantras like uh, waste no minutes, and you didn't believe you could heal till you started talking about it. And so I know we've been touching base around the cancer, but I also want to kind of open up the door in regards to just other taboo topics, because we really feel that this is something you both have done. You have both led by example. You've shared your lived experiences. You've told your honest, authentic truths of yourself. And I believe too that everything that we speak does manifest to our higher powers that be. And I love how you kind of said, be careful of what you do wish for because it will come. Right. And so we have to be very cautious on when we're trying to draw the blueprints and really kind of just think about that. And so what you two have done is you've helped us, and I've seen this happen also over the time you've been together, is you've helped us reach out to others who've been on similar journeys, not just healing from things like cancer, but other obstacles too. Like Carl, you've never spoken anything around adoption as it being a negative. It's always been a positive. And we know in our Pacific Islander community, we don't follow the rules when it comes to adoption. We do it our own way, right? And it's really interesting because we all have different experiences. Some of us may be raised by family members, some of us may be raised by others, but it doesn't take away from still those experiences, and then finally being able to come together and have the triumph of being able to find your biological family. When I first met you too, I looked at you and I said, well, you look like a few people I know. That's so interesting. And then it was like, oh my God, I didn't realize how close it was, right? And so that's that beautiful part. And there's other taboo topics that we've talked about, and this is why we really try to promote that stigma-free environment where we can talk about it. There's things that we all have talked about in circles that we know that we've seen other folks like Lulu's age, these college students that have experienced the same damn thing. And so here we are, 20 to 30 to 40 years older than them. And we've gone down that, I know, right? Let me see, who can I look at over here? We've gone down that road and we've been there. And so, like those lived experiences of things like in regards to just relationships, and even going further back to things of growing up taboo topics that they used to have a power over us, but we've taken the power away from them when we began to talk. And I just kind of wanted to open the floor to either of you to see if there was anything that you would like to share, kind of as we have this time together.
We're in the stare
Oh,
down. Naki
it,
does a good job of not moving at all. So
I know.
when you leave it out there, she'll freeze. Like you got to wonder whether she's frozen or not. Um, I'll go. I'll talk about adoption. I think that when we talk about taboo topics, there are some that just don't want to be talked about, and I think adoption is one of those, especially in the Pacific Islander community. I can remember the first Samoan that I ever had a conversation with, and he's my brother to this day. I was in his wedding, he's in mine. Um, it, it the first thing he said was, "Wow, uh, usually Samoans don't get adopted outside of the family. Like your auntie would have taken you, or like it was confusing to him." And that was like one of the first conversations I had, because how that always went was I would meet a Samoan person, and then there would be like, you know, three sentences: "How are you? What's your name?" And then bang, "What's your last name?" It's Johnson. Oh, Johnson. Oh, I know some Johnsons, and I'm thinking, no, not the Johnson, not the Johnson family you're thinking of. It's a Palangi family. And so I would go through that, and I would always get that reaction of, huh, I don't, I wonder, so there's already some um, unjustified shame involved with being adopted. Like when you're adopted, you think like, was I not loved? Was there shame in why, was I hidden? Like what was there? And I'll only talk, from my own experiences, but I've talked to other adopted people, and they have the same kind of thing. Like why wouldn't my parents raise me? So there's already that question. But then to come from a community that outside adoptions that go outside of the family are really rare, made it even more so um, for myself, that there was more of a puzzle to unwind. Um, so I think there was, as I sorted my feelings out with it, um, there was like, what was I, some secret, some dirty secret that nobody wanted, you know what I mean? Like I think the worst is you make up the story yourself. So the truth is the truth. But if you don't have the truth, in the absence of it, you're going to make up your own story. And a human nature is, like it or not, is probably you make up a worse story than the truth is.
Right.
So having those thoughts, those are things I had to deal with. Those are things that I am not one to um, bury my feelings. If I've got sadness, if I've got um, something that's weighing on me, I just had test results that came back that weren't the best news for me,
Yeah.
and I had to switch medicines, and there's only so many medicines that I can switch to. So it was a big piece of my travel or my journey with cancer. But there's sadness, there's depression, there's all those things. I let them come to me, and I swim in it. Like I don't want to deny anything. So I did the same thing with the adoption many times. I didn't work through it once and then done. I worked through it, and then it came back, and there were pieces of it that I didn't get through. So um, I, I'm a firm believer in buried feelings never die.
Mm.
Um, and when they don't die, they manifest with you in unhealthy manners when you're trying to avoid them. So I try not to avoid my feelings. So I guess my journey as with being adopted, and then seeing um, people that are adopted, and seeing there was no way to avoid. I mean, my parents that raised me were 100% honest with me, but there was no way to hide
Right.
um, that I was adopted. You know what I mean? Like I'm brown, they're not. You're clearly not their biological kid. Um, but that's not the case in the Pacific Islander community, and you have people that are being raised by other people that adopted them, and their aunts, uncles, uh, way older cousins, whatever, friends of the family, and it's really unfair to the the person that's been adopted when everybody knows something except for them. And I think that's a piece. As I talk to people, um, I hear they're just as upset or more upset that everybody was in on the secret except them, and they're the ones that are like the last to know. And I think that's another way that they're victimized, in that not only were they adopted, they got to deal with that, but then they get that dumped on them, that they're the last to know, and everybody else has processed their feelings about it, right? So if I know, uh, you know, Timmy is adopted, then in my mind, I think that through, and I've already dealt with that, from my angle, not from his angle. But everybody else has processed how they feel about how people are adopted, except for the person that was adopted. So then they find out at 18, 20, 25, whatever. Um, Everybody else is kind of like, yeah, now you know. But they're starting from the beginning of dealing with all that. And I think that people kind of lose that. Like, yeah, we all knew for decades or however long. So I think the secrecy is is really a weapon to the person that's been adopted, and there's I don't know that there's any legal you know right or anything like that, but there's a right of humanity to know information about yourself. That used to drive me nuts as when I would search for my biological parents. I
Yeah.
would, go to the state, and I was like, why is this scratched off? I'm 18 years old. I should be able to know everything about myself. But there's this information that's out there that the state has, or the county has, or my family has, that's about me, yet I don't get it.
Right.
That's another hurt.
Right. And I
I
think
talk
too,
way too much about that.
no, no, no. I think it's great that we are able to, and that's why we love that we're having this series, is because, like in the Pacific Honor community, um, and I'll speak more so from the past, is we did no kind of paperwork. You come get the baby will get your name, and even up into the part where starting school is, you can write anything down on that paper, and as long as you're in school using that name, legally that's your name. And so I think also I've known some parents who've been reserved in regards to sharing with their kids because they didn't want to cause havoc. But I love the fact that you sharing with us now through your lived experiences, that it really is important to have those conversations. I think it's important that we figure out when. I do know one of our sisters who shared with their kids that she basically raised them from an infant, but um, legally they were just nieces and nephews, and the relationship was good because she did nurture it along the way, and she gave opportunity. And I think that's so important, for us to see that. And so Gina is asking a question real quick, Carl, and she is saying, when did you, oops, where did it go? When did you start to look
For your
For my
family.
for
family.
your family? Yeah. How old were
Yeah.
you? Asking how old.
Um, as early as I could read, really. I mean, obviously, I wasn't searching, scouring the earth at 9 years old, or 5 years old, or however old. But once I could read, and I never remember having a conversation with my parents that, hey, you're adopted. I always, they were honest and open from a very, very early age, because I never remember having them say that. Obviously, they couldn't hide it. If they, I get to 9 or whatever, I would be asking the questions. But they're always open with me. I read the papers as soon as I could read the papers, and the documents, and so I wanted to look as soon as, to get as much information as I could. I had sent off for identifying information. I was in my 20s when I had sent off for my non-identifying information. Um, but as early as I wanted to find my family as early as I remember.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that part too. And I think again it goes back to that part around adoption, right? That's one of those taboo topics we never talk about, and I appreciate, we appreciate actually that you're able to bring that to the forefront, because in our community, we just often be like, oh, Fasamoa way, or, the Tongan way, or the this way, or the that way, the island way. And we're like, yeah, okay, I get it. But meanwhile, we don't think about the children, right? And we don't think about how they're feeling or what they're feeling. And so I think that it's really great that you've been willing to share your journey with us. And I know it's not easy, but it's educational, and it might help some other young folks that are watching that have similar experiences. So, again, we want to thank you for that. And Sister Neki, I know that you also have some um, journeys that you've experienced that we briefly touched base about, and I've seen you as a person who has found her voice, and it wasn't easy for you to find your voice. We had to do a lot of, and we've known each other for a long time, so we had to really kind of just sit down and process together in regards to like helping the healing process. And if you don't mind, can we turn it over to you if you'd like to share with us about one of your journeys?
Oh, sure. So, it started, did it start Journey to Empowerment? Well, when I was 9 years old, I was 9 years old. I was molested by a family member. And so, you're a Samoan kid. You don't say anything. You don't tell anybody. You just hold that shit in.
Right.
So, there was no one to tell. There's no one to tell because you don't want to embarrass your family. You don't want your dad to haul off and go kill somebody and go to prison. And so you're scared. And then it's your fault. I just keep my mouth shut because I must have said something. I must have did something for this to happen to me. And so anyway, I don't know how many years ago, 7 years ago.
About that.
Yeah, about 7 years ago, Nani was, I think you called or talked to me about Journey to Empowerment. And you guys were talking taboo topics, and I said, oh, if you talk about child, sexuality or molestation, let me know. I'll come by. And then our sister Nani. She bell went off in her head and she started digging. Oh, sister, why that? Why that topic? And I just said, I'm drawn to that topic. I want to hear people's stories. And so she started calling me and we talked. And then I told her finally, after I don't know how many pokes, that I was molested when I was 9. And so then her, Nani, Gaynor Siatonga, Ursula Siatonga, and baby, which Wolfgram, right?
Yeah, Maria.
Maria Wolfgram. I was living in Vallejo at the time. Those ladies got in their car, and Nani don't do long distance. Nani don't drive far. And so they got in their car and asked to have lunch with me. And they drove up and we talked, and we just talked about how freeing it would be to let it out. I mean, the ladies talked to me about, am I doing okay mentally? And at the time, I really didn't think anything about it. I'm gonna go about my day and, keep to myself, and all this shit will go away. It didn't go away. And because in the back of my head, it was always sitting there. And I couldn't tell anybody. Nobody would believe me. And So Nani, Gaynor, and Ursula came up and comforted me and talked about if I needed to talk to somebody, if I wanted to prosecute, which totally, I would if but I don't know. Everybody has their own thing of settling it. So the one thing that Nani said to me was that, sister, you're not the only one, and that somebody needs to hear your story. Because even if they don't speak up, they'll know that they're not alone. And so because of that, and I have 4 girls. So that I said, yes, I'm going to talk at Journey to Empowerment. And my girls never knew anything because, they're young, and at the time, I didn't want them in my business. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so before Journey to Empowerment, I sat my girls down and I told them what happened and why I don't let them go anywhere and why they can't date, you know what I mean? And all this crazy stuff, which it all came back to me as a little girl. I was trying to protect them. And, all parents are trying to, I wanted to give them the tools so that if this happens to them, they know what to do and where they can get help and that they can come to me or you or whoever, just talk to somebody. And so I went to Journey to Empowerment and I spoke along with other girls that were there. I don't want to say their names because, it's private. But the other 2 girls there, I don't know if I went last or I know I didn't go first.
You did go last.
The few ladies that went before me, I mean, I really was thinking of chickening out. But the 2 girls that spoke before me really gave me the strength to go on. I told my story through tears, and you guys had, oh gosh, now I can't even remember her name.
Paulita?
Yes.
Paulita Moreau.
Yeah, you guys had her there just to speak to us in case we needed anything. And it was so freeing to just say the words to a room full of people I didn't know. And I had, at the time I had my close sisters there with me, and they held my hand, and we just, I don't know, it was so freeing to tell your story. And after I was done speaking, the sad thing about it is people came up to me or text me and said that it had happened to them too. And they had kept it to themselves because, like me, they were scared and didn't want to cause any problems in their family, didn't want any fights because, people that get molested, it's not a stranger. It's someone in your family. It's someone that you know. So that's, when you're a kid, that's a hard thing to, speak out loud. And every time I tell my story, somebody reaches out to me and tells me. And that was like 7 years ago. And I was 9 when it happened. So that's, blah, blah, blah years ago. But still to this day, it's still happening. And I still hear the stories. And it makes me sad because people tell me in confidence and I can't go to the police and I can't go. All I can do is try to lead them to get help, lead them to talk to somebody. That's all I can do. But for it to still be happening today,
right?
And it's our own people doing it to our kids. It's fucked up. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's real. It's real.
Um, and I know I'm crying now, but I cry all the time I tell the story. But my point is that because of this, I am a stronger person.
Yes, you
I
are.
can talk to my kids. I can talk to anybody. If you need help, I can get you it. You don't want to turn that person in? We don't, fuck that person. Let's help you.
That's right.
Because what happened to me, I mean, and after sitting on it, it affected my relationships. You know what I mean? Like I was dating people that were, hitting me or, talking to me crazy. And now, I mean, I can't even imagine somebody talking to me crazy now. You know what I mean? But it affects everything in your life, the way your relationship with your husband, the relationship with your children, with your friends. So yeah, so I try to talk about it as much as I can. So if there's somebody that it's happening to and you can't speak to anybody, but to hear somebody else talk about it, know that you're not alone. You're not alone because unfortunately, this happens more than we'd like to talk about.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neki. You know, we're sending you hearts right now and hugs. I wish I could reach through this, give you a big hug right now. And you too, Brother Carl. And I think that, again, that happened, right? And just to kind of move the story along during that time is once you were able to share that story, you actually kind of retracted for a little bit. And I know you did a lot of writing, and man, your
Right.
writing is so powerful, so powerful. I know you've shared some of that with me, and it's like I think that's one of the messages that's really important for our folks is that when you're going through these trials and tribulations, is that there is power in the pen, or even
Right.
you have speech notes where you're talking it out and processing it and putting it in some way to be kept so that you don't hold it within. But when I heard you then begin to talk about it on different arenas and mostly through the PBD FICA, like you got stronger and stronger
Mhm.
along the way. And I love it because I know, yes, we have the tears because it's raw again, but it's like
Right.
that's gasoline in the fire. You are just blazing and ready to just like with the fire hose, right? And I'm right
Mhm.
there with you because, that's just the fact is that we sit here right now on this Talanoa Tuesday, knowing in our family that there is a lot of folks that know someone or are that someone that has been molested. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
even raped
Yeah.
and violated it. And not to
Violated.
forget, family, is that when we had that talk, I will not forget that there were males that came forward too. There were males
Yes.
that were molested and are still being molested. And so we can't hide for our brothers and sisters. We need to bring it out to the forefront. And why does it continue to happen in our community? Is because we just don't talk about it.
Right.
Oh, oh, that
Right.
didn't happen. Or like you said, like blame the child or this or that. And now it's time to unravel, begin these discussions, and keep talking about it. Because, I just think of a lot of the folks that we even worked with in college too. Man, you talk about opening some doors and,
Mm.
and really them sharing and finding out through live stories like this and through digital stories that they are not alone, right? They are not alone in these experiences. And I think that, for the reason why we really wanted to start this Survivor series, and I think of it more as a triumph series, is that we really wanted to share with both of you. I don't know in regards to how you folks are feeling in our Facebook family. My heart is really beating. It's like
Mhm.
beating, and that's because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling my blood right now running through your stories, and I just really want to kind of thank you for having that voice and finding your strength. And I know Lulu had some questions she wanted to kind of ask the both of you, and I want to give her the opportunity to share that.
Thank you. Like Auntie Nani said, I really want to thank both of you for sharing your story. We felt um, it was really important to get your guys' stories out because you cover everyone else's stories, but rarely get your own stories covered. So it was really
Right.
nice to finally get to show those who are behind the scenes most of the time. So my first question is just to kick off the series is what is your definition of a survivor?
I'll go.
Yeah, you go.
um, real quick, I wanted to just comment on what Naki so bravely goes through time and time again. She cries every time. Um, it's it's emotional for her every time she goes through it, and she goes through it every time she has the opportunity. So um, for her bravery to go through what she just went through, I've probably seen her intentionally go through this 10, 15 times in the times that I've known her. She never shies away from it. She never just says it and doesn't feel it. So um, for her to go through this um, every time she has the opportunity, because it could be helping somebody. Um, I mean, that's bravery. I want to make a quick comment about evil can't live under light. So when you see people like Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein or whatever, and all these people that were doing all these terrible things for years, um, it all stops when the light finds them. When people find out what's going on, it all stops.
Mm.
And there has to be people that are going to willingly shine light on evil. And when you do, it'll stop. Um, as soon as victims feel like they can have a voice and they can be heard, and they can actually shine the light on the evil, then evil can't live. The problem is we have so much darkness out here right now, and
Mm.
so many areas that we don't want to talk about. We're not comfortable talking about all those kind of things. The light never reaches that, and it continues on. And when Naki says, "Why, it's continuing on as of this day," it still continues because we don't have the light on the issue. Like we're allowing it to live in the darkness. And that's my thought on how are we going to address that. We have to empower people to say, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm comfortable going to somebody and saying, I think I saw something was messed up. Like, I don't like the way that looks. Like,
Mm.
maybe that's not the full light, but then if 4 or 5 people come forward and say the same thing, then that puts the light on it. But evil lives in darkness. And until, we start eliminating areas that darkness sits, this kind of thing, it's been it's generational, and it's not specific to the PI community, but we're so tight knit, we're so you know community and culture and family based that it makes it even harder for victims to come out and shine light on things that should be subjected to the light. So um, I just, as she was saying that, I that was in my heart. I wanted to say that.
Can I
Um,
can I just say something really quick? I just want to read what Manufo wrote really quick. She said the sad part is it's not just the perpetrator, but family members who participate in the cover up, and being so brave gives so many strength that they need to call it out. That is a big thing too of our PI kids or women or whatever getting molested is the family covers it up. You know this man is molesting people and yet you just I think somebody said before, oh that's Uncle Chester. We just stay away from him. And then it becomes a joke. You know what I mean? So I just it's not funny anymore.
no.
It's not funny anymore because you mess with people's, you know, souls. You
Right.
mess with people's souls. And if that I'm asking people to share this so that other people can see and hear our stories. And if you are that perpetrator or if you are that family member, shame on you. Shame on you.
That's right. That's right. That's a perfect connection right there. And that part, Carl, about the light is that you are so right because it is all done in the dark. And let us shine light on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's kind of where it's like, we embrace our community around love, light, laughter, all of that. And so we have to shine that light on that darkness. And thank you, Monifo, for saying that. I don't have access to see the comments, but I'm glad you were able to bring that up because these topics really do
Yeah.
affect our community very deeply. And
I'm sorry, Lulu. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Um,
What is your
so
definition of a
my
survivor?
definition of a survivor is somebody who can recognize if they've been a victim, and somebody who, and I said this earlier, buried feelings never die. If you bury the feelings, they're going to come back and they're going to manifest itself in alcoholism, in drug use, in um, you know, eating disorders. They're going to manifest
Right.
themselves in some way if you try to bury
Right.
your feelings. So a survivor is somebody who confront their feelings. In one way or another, they're able to process their feelings. If you can recognize if you've been a victim, and you cannot bury your feelings and address them and deal with them and get in them and swim in that water and figure out what it is that's bothering you and get counseling if you need counseling. There's been times in my life where I'm usually really good at finding out what I feel. And there's been times where I'm like, look, I've been trying to do this for like 2 weeks. I can't sleep. I'm having a nervous breakdown. I need counseling. I didn't have the tools to deal with it. So that's my definition of a survivor would be somebody that can understand when they've been victimized, and then somebody who can process their emotions.
thank you, Carl. And also in regards to counseling, I know our people do not frequent it, but it is there, it is available. We, like even here at Asian American Recovery Services, we have managed care where we also take folks that are not only on Medi-Cal, but also walk in and fee for service, right? And so we're connected to a lot of folks that um, look like us too. We have a handful of therapists that are Pacific Islanders. And so there are people out there. And, we know that some folks may not be comfortable with talking to someone, but there's also like telehealth right now is very popular because people can't go into the office to see them. So we actually do a session. There's people are doing sessions by the phone or going back to the basics, right? Talking with your folks that your inner circle and just letting it out. That's a great way to start and not hold it in because here's a lived experience right here, right? You think you're okay, but then all that was a bandage. It wasn't letting that light, like you're saying, Carl, come in and begin to heal those hurts. And so thank you. And Naki, I'm sorry, I just wanted to intercede that into after Carl was talking.
Oh, is it my turn? I think a survivor is someone who fights while smiling. Just because you're struggling on whatever you're struggling through, you still got to get through the day. You just got to make it through the day. So if you make it to the next day, you are a survivor.
I like it.
Yeah, that perseverance, right?
Right. Right. I think Carl and I talk about this all the time. The way that we deal with cancer is I'm not, I got cancer and, I came home to tell my kids and they started bawling because all we know of cancer, and I know this not to be true anymore, is death. You hear cancer and you hear death. That's all you think of. And I didn't want my kids to feel like that. And so I still got up every day, went to do PBD after treatment. I was off to some meeting, and Carl talks about how he wants to show his triplets how he deals with adversity.
Right.
They don't see us just, laying out cancer, cancer, cancer. I don't want people to come up to me and go, oh, so you have cancer? No, there's a lot of people that I talk to don't even know I have cancer. And I don't want them to, because I don't want that to be a topic. You know what I mean? Like, because that's not, I have cancer. Cancer doesn't have me.
That's it, man. I was just looking at that statement. I had cancer. Cancer never had me. That is so powerful. And that makes me think of my mom, who had ovarian
Yeah.
cancer, and now she's had a various amount of skin cancers, and she's still ticking away. You know what I'm saying? And also, I invited a lot of other survivors that are surviving from cancer and other things to join on tonight with us, because it's really about that triumph. And I'm not a survivor. um, I'm a warrior. You know what I'm saying? I'm a warrior.
Yeah.
People take that from me. Lulu, did you have more questions for our lovely family?
Um, just thinking about time because I don't know if everybody, dinner time. So,
Oh,
You're good. Don't
I
worry.
just have I have a few questions, just a
yeah.
few. So throughout your whole journey, what are you most proud of?
Um, I think I'm most proud of the way my family handles everything that comes out of my mouth. Whether I'm speaking about taboo topics, or whether I'm speaking about positive PIs. Before COVID-19, Carl and I were never home. Like we would get off of work, and after work I would try and make an event. On the weekends, he'd pick me up on Friday. We'd get home late at 11 p.m., get up early Saturday morning and take off. And then Sunday, pick me up again and we'd go do FICA. So um, I think yeah, that's it. Because a big shout out to my family, because without them, and with Nicole and the triplets, we couldn't do PBD without their support. So there you go. I said
Um,
it.
I'm with Naki. I'm most proud of how my family's responded. I think that um, a lot of times the focus is with cancer survivors is the person, as it should be. They're the ones going through it, but there's a huge ripple effect with family and loved ones that
Right.
there's a question in the chat from Lisa Taktola. It says, as a poly person dealing with cancer, what do you think is our greatest strength culturally in supporting you through this? And what would be the best we can do as family and community to help you and those going through that damn C word? Um, there's all kinds of things the family goes through because, like, I know Naki and I go through things for ourselves, like to make ourselves strong, right? So we deal with these things and we think about them and we process these. And the family doesn't necessarily go through the exact same process, and they want to help, like Lisa's saying. It's like, how can we help? And for the family to be understanding of the journey, um, to be supportive, as Naki said. A big piece of this is our spouses and our families that pick up um, pieces that normally we would have at home.
Mhm.
um, to answer Lisa's question real quick, I think the best thing to do is be able to have the conversation. One of the things that Nicole and I said about cancer from the very beginning was the kids were 15, 16, um, and we told them that you go to bed at night knowing everything that we know, so that that whole piece of don't let me make up the story because I'll make up a real bad one. We don't want that
Mhm.
to happen with them. So I think letting being able to say I have cancer, I think that's empowering for me, to tell somebody that I have cancer. Um, like Becky said, cancer doesn't have me. I'm not surviving. I'm living a better life than I did before I found out that I had cancer.
Mhm.
Um, and you know life is a death sentence, like
Hmm,
we're all going to die.
that's
So
right.
Right.
I'm going to
That's
quit
right.
life because I have cancer. That doesn't make sense, because in the end we all die. So um, that whole empowerment from the family, being understanding, that's the way that I think that the family has really stepped up. I'm so proud of my kids that you know the young people that you're dealing with when you're trying to explain what a lot of people, like Naki said, is a death sentence. How do you get them to understand um, to not be afraid, to live in fear, that something, you're not going to wake up in the morning or something like that. I think Naki's right that there is that feeling that once, oh, cancer means dead.
Right.
If that's the case, then life means dead, because at the
Mm.
end of life is death.
Thank you. One last question, and this is just going out to the whole community, our audience right now. Any advice to any survivors out there who are trying to get through uh, and just start the process of healing, acceptance, and just embracing that journey that you two have embraced so much?
You want me to go?
Um, sure.
Okay. Um, Advice I would give is the same thing I just said already. Buried feelings never die. If you've had trauma in your life, you're gonna have to. You got to talk about it. You got to find somebody that you can talk to. It doesn't have to be a traditional counselor. It can be your best friend. It can be a family member or a counselor, or it can be somebody from the church. But Naki's testament is so true that talking about it is healing. Um, the other advice for a survivor I would give is, and it was typed in earlier from Facebook, I think. It's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had trauma that was put onto you from another person, from another organization, from another entity, it's not your fault. And you've got to understand and got to believe that, and that's going to take processing of the feelings. But um, we live in a society that blames the victim for everything. There must be something wrong with that person. There must be something wrong with that group of people. There must be something wrong with whatever. um, but blame the victim is really something that our society does a lot. I think it's innate now in a lot of people in society that don't even know they blame the victim. So if I have that belief and then I need to become a survivor, it's going to be that much harder for me to be a survivor if I have that belief that the victim must have done something. So, Naki's is a great story. It's simply not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
What was that again?
What advice would you give
Oh,
to?
what have staying positive. Like, I know, like Carl and I say this all the time. Out of something bad, something you can always find something good. There's a lesson from everything, or like, something horrible, like the car accident, for instance. The car accident was just, oh my God, we totaled the car. We were in the hospital, but the good thing that came out of it is I found out that I had cancer so that I can treat it. There's so many bad things, like, I don't know what good thing can come out of, but you just have to find the positive. And I think our positive attitude has really helped with our healing, with our cancer. And I say the word cancer. I don't say the C word, and I don't say that thing. I say cancer, because it's not as strong as me. And so you have to say the word. But I think because of our positive attitude, and I'm always, I'm trying to smile all the time, and I try to find the best that I can out of everyone that I talk to. I find now that because of cancer, that when I talk to you, I really talk to you. Like, how are you? How are you doing? Oh, how's your kid? Like, I really take the time to find out how you're really doing. As of before, I was like, oh, hey, and keep walking. Like, oh, hey, but I really take the time to stop and say hi to people. And I try to stay as positive as I can. I do have my downs, and Carl's like, what the hell are you doing? But I'm not happy all the time, but it really makes a difference in your spirit if you try to see everything in a positive light. I really believe that that's helped me get through my journey that I'm
I,
loving.
I just thought of one thing as Naki was talking. Um, Embrace the journey. So my journey once it started with cancer. I can go through that journey resentful and angry and depressed, or I can go through that journey thankful and positive
Mhm.
and happy. Either way, the journey's going to happen. So embrace the journey and go through it the way that you decide. Don't let it decide for you.
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
I just wanted to answer Professor Siatanga. She was asking what happened to the Peroskis. I never got them. I never got them. I never got them. I'm just saying. So, you know.
We're gonna make sure that you get some Peroskis. Well, I want to take this time to thank the both of you for sharing and being your authentic self. And I think that it's beautiful because I know you both personally, and I feel like on this platform, our Facebook family gets to also know you on a more personal level. And what you both have shared around, it is about that light, right? It's about that light that will help keep you going, and that in any given situation, whatever you can find something positive out of it, it keeps you moving forward. And I think that's been kind of the foundation which has kept you both so solid in moving forward. And I love that, Naki, you said, um, the things that, it's cancer is not as strong as you are. And that's really powerful because hopefully that will encourage others, to when dealing with health situations. Again, these are just our shells. When we're here, man, it's about that soul. It all goes down to is that soul. So when we get out of bed in the morning and our body's kind of aching and bones are kind of cracking and whatever, just keep smiling. It's about that soul. And really, you two are wonderful examples of perseverance. And this is what we want to share. We want to share with our family and those young folks who may be going through stuff, that if you need help, we're here for you. You can hit up Poly by Design. You can hit up us at Essence Amana. We're going to actually, after this, we're going to ask Anthony to post up the sexual assault number, trauma center number, and also the trauma center number we have, and then also a national abuse and incest number, so that you put them in. And can I just really make a highly recommendation is put that in your phone. Whatever you need to do, I usually put like work / and put the number down so I can get to it fast, because it may not happen to you, but it might happen to someone you know. And
Right.
instead of trying to look for the, you got it right there in your hand, because Lord knows, like Carl and that phone is right there with in their hand. So, is there any other questions on the page before we begin to wrap it up that you guys can see? Because my ojos no see nothing except your beautiful faces.
I don't see anything. Uh,
Can we just shout out some people that are tuned in?
Yeah.
We got Bounce, Bounce,
Bouncerella,
Bounce, Gina, Manulelua, Sister Florence, Lisa, Joaquim, hey girl. Auntie Mo, hi Auntie Mo. Vicky Higgins, Sala Malia Tulua. Hit the vowels. Just Mary Beer. Hey Mary.
Happy
Junior.
birthday.
Hi Junior. Junior's on. Mr. Flores.
Not sleeping, he's on.
The man, Mr. Flores. Thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thank you so much. And when can we hear or see FICA?
We are on Tuesdays now, and early. We're on like 4 because we got to catch Essence of Mana. And then Sundays we are at 10.
Nice. Thank you so much. I'm not used to it, but like Naki was telling me, follow the pages, please. Like the pages.
Follow and like Essence of Mana. Share.
Share has a different meaning these days than it did back in the day.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's a way different meaning.
Yes, we love you.
I can't wait for next week.
Thank you. And please join us next Tuesday for Talanoa Tuesday to continue our Survivor series. Please remember to keep yourself embraced by love, light, and lots of laughter. We love all of you. Thank you, Carl and Naki. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Lulu.
Love
Waste no
you.
minute.
Thank you. Bye.